So I'd really like to introduce Sarah, who is the sales manager at Rocky Mountaineer, one of our incredible partner companies and operators that we work really closely with, travel counsellors. And she has a fabulous presentation, which I'm very excited to be watching and being a part of. So if everyone has their drinks ready and you're comfortable, then over to you, Sarah.
Thank you. Thanks, Melissa. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining us this evening. I hope you're all comfortable in your own homes, in your living rooms, conservatories. If you're in your bed, there's no judgment here. But today I'm going to transport you west to Canada and the USA. So I'm going to attempt to share my screen with you now. Fingers crossed. Where have we gone? Okay. 1 second. Now let's hope we're not going to have any technical issues, as Melissa says. Fingers crossed that's not going to be on the agenda this evening. Hopefully you can all see my screen. Can I get a thumbs up from people if it's okay? Good, that's what we like to hear. So my name's Sarah. I have been lucky enough to work for Rocky Mountaineer for 4.5 years, and I like to think I do have the best job in the world because I have been on the train 7 times myself. For those of you that don't know, Rocky Mountaineer is a luxury train. We're very much a kind of bucket list, once in a lifetime experience, although as I say, I am very lucky. I have managed to do it 7 times in my life. So today I'm going to be talking you through our routes and our experience in Western Canada, and also at the very end of this presentation I'm going to talk you through our brand new route in the west of the USA. So as you can see here, 2020 was actually supposed to be our 30th birthday. We should have been celebrating in style on the train. Unfortunately, I think like all of us that had a birthday in lockdown, it didn't happen. It doesn't count. So we're going to have to postpone celebrations to this year. To begin with, though, I'm going to play you a short video which will hopefully give you a flavour for what Rocky Mountaineer is all about. So as I mentioned, our core routes are in Western Canada, and we have 3 of these to choose from, all of which go in and out of Vancouver. Now do bear in mind, Canada is 42 times the size of the UK. It is an incredibly big place, and we actually just go through 2 provinces. So we go through British Columbia and Alberta. British Columbia alone is 4 times the size of the UK. So whilst on this map it actually looks like we're only covering a very short distance, in actual fact it really is a ginormous country, and we're covering a really long way. So the really unique thing about Rocky Mountaineer is that it is a daylight service only, so you never sleep on board Rocky Mountaineer. 2 main reasons for that. One being, if you slept on a moving train before, I've done it in Vietnam, you'll probably know that you don't get much sleep. It's not the most comfortable experience. And also, if we were to travel at night, you wouldn't get to see all this incredible scenery that Western Canada has to offer. But our 3 routes will either start or end in Vancouver, and they will make their way up towards the Rockies. So the towns that you might be familiar with, such as Lake Louise, Jasper and Banff. Or you can choose to start your journey with us in the Rockies and work your way westbound on the train towards Vancouver. So first passage to the west is our most popular rail route. This is also the most historic as well. So when you're on the train, our hosts really kind of storytell and bring the whole experience to life. And on this particular route, they will tell you about how the rail route was actually built. As you can imagine, building a railroad 150 years ago through the Canadian Rockies is no mean feat. So there's some really interesting stories on this route. But it's a 2-day journey linking Vancouver and Banff in the Rockies. I'm going to talk as if you're traveling eastbound out of Vancouver, but again, do remember you can travel westbound towards Vancouver. So Vancouver is one of the most fabulous cities you will ever go to. We have so many clients that say they hate cities, it's not for them. And then they'll go to Vancouver and go, okay, well, we'll make an exception. So Vancouver is obviously, as you can see here, got this very kind of cosmopolitan downtown area with skyscrapers. But it's got this incredible backdrop of the mountains, and more often than not, they have snow on the top, and also the sea as well. So if you're thinking about doing an Alaska cruise out of Vancouver, the port is right in the downtown area. So you have this incredible sail away with the mountains on one side, the skyscrapers on the other. You might think you've never seen Vancouver before, but if you've ever seen any of the Marvel films like Spider-Man or any kind of film where there's a scene where it looks like they're in New York, more often than not, those films are actually made in Vancouver because it's got these great big skyscrapers, and it's actually cheaper to film in Canada than it is in the USA. So that's just a pointless fact of the day for you. But going back to the rail route, your clients will leave Vancouver. This is just some of the things that you can do in Vancouver when you're there. We've got the Capilano Suspension Bridge, which is an amazing bridge over this kind of gushing river valley. If you're scared of heights, it's probably not going to be your favorite activity, but it is definitely worth checking out. We've got some people here riding a bike along the seawall. So there's an incredible kind of flat paved path all the way around Vancouver and the Stanley Park area as well. And then a seaplane. So this is actually the busiest port in the world for seaplanes, because there's so many little islands and inlets all around Vancouver that are only accessible by seaplane. So if you stay in any of the downtown hotels that are facing the water, all you'll see all day is all these little planes come in and land and take off again. So it's really good fun. So Vancouver, you've got kind of coastal mountains all around Vancouver, and that's where you'll spend most of the day on this first day traveling eastbound out of Vancouver. But as it heads in towards the kind of afternoon, you'll actually get into desert terrain. So Kamloops is actually going to be where you're going to disembark the train and head to your hotel accommodation. Kamloops is just a little working Canadian town, but it is classified as a desert area, which you might not think exists in Canada. So it's very dry and very arid terrain. Next day, once you've had your rest in your hotel in Kamloops, you'll be up on the train early in the morning, and then this is when you're going to travel through true Rockies terrain. So these incredible mountains that we just don't have anything of the scale of this anywhere in Europe. And this is where you're getting to see some beautiful scenery like you can see here. Lake Louise, you've probably seen this image, whether you weren't aware it was Lake Louise or not. You've probably seen it countless times before. It is one of the most stunning lakes you'll ever see, with this incredible turquoise colour. And then you've got the Fairmont Chateau Lake Louise Hotel right on the water itself. One of my favourite things to do is afternoon tea at the hotel. And even if the lake is frozen, it's still stunning. You'll see people make ice sculptures and ice skate, and it's just a really beautiful spot. So you can choose to start or end your journey on First Passage to the West Rail Route in Lake Louise or Banff. So Banff is much bigger than Lake Louise. It's a proper little town. And this is the high street here with Cascade Mountain in the back. One thing I will say about the images that you see in the presentation is that they really don't do the scenery justice. When you see it yourself, the scale of it is just something that photos just can't really translate. But Banff is a really lovely little town. It's got quite a Western flavour to it. So you might see people walking down the street in cowboy boots and cowboy hats. And there's some great restaurants and bars and shops there, and lots to do in the surrounding area. Journey Through the Clouds is our next kind of most popular rail route. So this is another 2-day rail route. Again, you'd stay in Kamloops as your midway point, but this one takes you slightly further north, and you will actually go past Mount Robson, which is the mountain that you see here in this image. And Mount Robson is the highest peak in the Rockies. It's so high that it actually has its own microclimate. So these people getting their photo on the train on this particular day are incredibly lucky, because more often than not, the actual peak of Mount Robson is covered in cloud, just because it's so high. If you're into mountaineering, it's also known as the Great Fright, because apparently it's very difficult, a very difficult mountain to climb. I've not been tempted to do it myself, but so I'm told it's a particularly difficult one for mountaineers. And then this route will get you into the kind of more quaint, little less touristy mountain town of Jasper. And there is a resident herd of elk that actually greet the train as we pull in, which is always really nice to see. And then finally, our third rare route that we have in Canada is our rainforest to gold rush route. Great if you want to spend a bit more time on the train itself, as it does give you an extra half day. And on this one, you have 2 overnight stops. First one is going to be in Whistler, which was actually my home for a year in 2010, which was also when the Winter Olympics were held with Vancouver, which is why you can see the Olympic rings in this image here. Whistler is a really upmarket, bustly town, very popular with the skiing in winter, but also really, really popular in summer as well. And it's also home to many resident black bears. So the first time I ever saw a black bear was when I opened my bedroom windows and there was a black bear in my garden, which was quite intimidating. But certainly if you went to Whistler in summer, your chances are pretty high that you would see a black bear. And then Cornell is the second overnight stop in this route. And as you can see here, it's known as the Gold Pan City. It's where prospectors went to go and find gold in the gold rush. I don't believe they were particularly successful, but that is what Cornell is famous for. And on this route, you'll finish up in Jasper again. So when to travel, I mentioned earlier that we are a daylight service only. And for that reason, we don't actually travel in the winter months because daylight hours are few and far between. And also, if you're hoping to see some of the wildlife that Western Canada has to offer, they're all hibernating in winter. So we operate from mid-April to mid-October. Spring is a really, really good time of year to travel if you're into wildlife. So this is when the animals have woken up from their hibernation. They've been asleep for many months and they're really, really active trying to find food. So they will actually come right up to the train tracks because that's where a lot of food is thrown out of trains and freight trains. And there's a lot of tasty treats for them near the train itself. Bear in mind, I've spent a lot of my life in Canada. I lived there and I've been there countless times since. The only time I've ever seen a grizzly bear has been from Rocky Mountaineer itself. And that grizzly bear is the resident grizzly bear in Lake Louise, also known as the boss, because he's got quite a temperament and he's ginormous. But he came really, really close to the train. For every one grizzly bear, there are 100 black bears. So you are much more likely to see black bears than you are grizzly bears. Summer is when everything's in full bloom. So this is when all the lakes will thawed. You'll see all these beautiful turquoise green colours, as you can kind of see behind me and also in this image here. And then fall is my favourite time of year to travel because all the colours in the trees start to change. You get these lovely yellows and oranges. And it does tend to be a little bit quieter in the Rockies as well. So you can get some really good images without having to kind of put your elbows out and get that best shot. And wildlife, as I've mentioned, this is what people want to see in Canada. I can't guarantee that you will see animals. I unfortunately don't have that power. But I'm pretty confident that you'll see some of these images that you can see here. So we've got black bears at the top. I can pretty much guarantee that you'll see a golden eagle. They are pretty populous in this region. You've also got bighorn sheep that kind of hang out in herds, and they are seen around Kamloops actually. So when you're on the train, it's quite fun because they're so well camouflaged. So you have to kind of spend ages trying to find them. And then we've got the elusive moose. So these are huge, awkward creatures. I've only ever seen one my entire life, and it was an amazing experience. So if you see a moose, you are doing really, really well. And then back to the train itself. So you've got 2 levels of service to pick from. So Silverleaf is what maybe 30% of our clients do go for. So this is a single level carriage. Everything in Canada is super scale. So if you've ever been to the States before and you order a portion of chips and it will come out like a bucket and everything is just massive. Canada's the same and the train is the same as well. So these images, very deceptive. These are not like trains that we have in the UK. They're huge. It's really, really light and spacious inside. And you can see here that even when you stand up, you've got several feet before your head reaches the ceiling. Really, really spacious. So even if you were 7 foot, you would still have a reclining seat and tons of leg room. And you'll get your meals and drinks served to you at your seats in Silverleaf. And it's a really kind of social, informal atmosphere. And then Goldleaf is probably what 70% of our clients do go for. And this really is the way to kind of do it in style and in luxury. So this is double decker. So it's got 2 levels. Top level is where you would sit for the duration of the day. And we've got these incredible kind of panoramic glass domed windows. So when you sit up there, you're really, really immersed in the scenery. Downstairs is the dining carriage. So this is where you'll move downstairs for your meals. And it is Michelin star trained chefs preparing the food in Goldleaf. So if you're into pancakes, these will be the best pancakes you ever have in your life. I swear by it. They are, I don't know what's in them, but they're amazing. And you also have an outside area at the back of every Goldleaf carriage. So this is great for going and getting that fresh, clean Rockies air and taking some photographs as well. This image is actually Castle Mountain in the back. So that's quite close to Lake Louise, actually. And you can see some people in the back of these Goldleaf carriages actually out on those outdoor festival areas. And this is that top level. So you'll probably see birds, hawks and eagles come right over your head. And you're above the tree line for a lot of the day as well up here. So you're really sitting up high. You're really kind of involved in that scenery. And then there's the outdoor viewing area. And this is just a sample of some of the hotels that you might be staying in once you've been on the train with us. But in Canada, one thing I'd probably say is if you booked a 3-star hotel in Canada, to compare it to UK, it will be much more spacious, much higher standard. Canada's like the States in that they expect big, comfy beds, big, spacious rooms. It is a little bit different to what you'd expect from perhaps a European hotel. All along the Rockies, though, there are Fairmont hotels. You've got the Fairmont in Banff Springs, the Fairmont in Lake Louise, Fairmont in Calgary, Fairmont in Vancouver, and they are an incredibly high standard of hotel. And if you're looking for something a bit more comfortable, Fairmonts are what I would suggest you go for. This is a sample of some of our menus that we have on board the train. So on the left, we've got a lunch menu for Goldleaf. And on the right, we've got a breakfast and lunch option for our Silverleaf guests. So you do get a lot more choice in Goldleaf, but all the food for both will be locally sourced. It will be organic produce. And we really want you to feel like you're in Canada. So you'll see on the menu, we've got British Columbia salmon, which I promise you, if you do go to British Columbia, you will eat salmon the entire time. They're obsessed with it. You've also got Alberta beef on the menu. And Yukon Gold potatoes as well. So really just trying to make sure that you feel like you are in Canada. So a typical day on board, you'll start at one of our stations quite early in the morning. You'll board the train and the train manager will actually come down the length of the train and do a welcome toast with every single client. When you're on board the train, it's completely all-inclusive. You don't need to put your hands into your pockets for anything at all. You'll be served a breakfast and a lunch, and these are incredibly hearty sized portions. I don't know of anyone that's needed to eat once they've been on the train. In actual fact, you're more likely to roll off the train, as it is our motto to feed our guests every 45 minutes. You'll have had a 3-course lunch, feel completely full, roll upstairs, and there'll probably be a freshly baked cookie that you won't be able to refuse. So that's the kind of experience on board. Hopefully you'll see some wildlife, but it's our hosts that really do bring the whole experience to life. So a lot of them have worked with us for years and years and years. Majority of them are Canadian. They've got a great sense of humour. And they're also all linked by radio. So if someone at the front of the train sees a bear, they radio through to all of their other colleagues saying, get your cameras ready, there's a bear coming up on the right. And then it's kind of carnage as everybody tries to get the best photograph, but it's really good fun. And then in the evening, you'll arrive at your destination and you'll disembark the train, get on a bus. It will take maybe 5 or 10 minutes to your hotel accommodation. And honestly, it is surprisingly exhausting eating, drinking, and not doing very much all day. You will be shattered. I don't know why, but it's just a fact. So you might be thinking, okay, well, we've got our 2 days on the train. What do we do outside of this? And this is when you can work with Melissa and kind of, tailor something to your needs. But just to give you some ideas here, if you were thinking about going to Canada, there's lots of sightseeing tours. So this is one of our coach partners that we work with. They do lots of escorted tours in the region, in the Rockies. You could even self-drive as well. And I just love this image. I wish I was that person driving along this road with these moose here. I don't know how they ever took this photograph, but it's amazing. But the roads in Canada are so easy. They're big, wide, really open. They're very rarely busy. Very, very easy to do so. And also Alaska cruise as well. So probably about 65% of our guests will combine with an Alaska cruise, and you can either go from either Vancouver or Seattle, which is only a couple of hours away from Vancouver. Pretty much every cruise line you think of will have an Alaska program. I was lucky enough to do this about 2 or 3 years ago with Holland America Line. They consider themselves the Alaska specialists. I'd never actually done a cruise before, thought I was going to hate it, and honestly it was one of the best things I've ever done. And I think there is just something so lovely about sitting at the back of a ship, wrapped up in a blanket with a cocktail and seeing the whale spouts come up as, you know, you've got these incredible mountains and glaciers crashing into the water. It's very unique. There's nowhere quite like Alaska in the world. And I think the lovely thing about combining a cruise with a train is it just adds a completely different kind of dimension, a different element to your holiday. So most of the cruise lines will offer a kind of 7-night round trip program in and out of Vancouver. But as I say, loads of different options if that was something you wanted to do. So that is pretty much Canada in a nutshell. And now I'm going to talk through our brand new route in the USA, which only launched at the beginning of last year. And we've actually been looking for a route for probably about the last 5 years. And we've had over 2 million guests travel with Rocky Mountaineer in the last 30 years. All of them we know want to travel with us again, but they don't necessarily want to go back to Canada. So we've been looking for somewhere that has this incredible scenery that we're kind of renowned for, and somewhere that we can offer the same level of hospitality and service that we're famous for as well. So we've ended up in the States, and our new route is called Rockies to the Red Rocks. And it's another 2-day journey linking Denver in Colorado and Moab in Utah. So I'm going to play you a video now, which admittedly, because the train is not actually in Colorado and Utah yet, it's a bit of a concept video. There's a bit of artistic license going on. But anyway, have a look and hopefully you'll get a better idea for what this route is going to be like.
Extraordinary place. Deserves an extraordinary way to see it. Newest route, Rockies to the Red Rocks, brings 30 years of Rocky Mountaineer's world-class service to the stunning desert vistas of the American Southwest. Traveling from the vibrant Denver, Colorado, past some of nature's wonders, vast canyons, chromatic deserts, and panoramic views, to the mesmerizing red rock landscapes that twist through the bright blue sky. It's rail travel at its best. After all, if you're going to see an extraordinary place, you want an extraordinary way to see it.
Okay, so this is our route, as I mentioned. It's linking Denver in Colorado to Moab in Utah via an overnight stay in the little resort town of Glenwood Springs. From Moab, which is the gateway to the national parks in Utah, you can either head on up towards Salt Lake City, so either drive or take an escorted tour, or I think what will be more popular for us Brits will be have a little party in Vegas at either the start or end of your trip. Day one is all spent in Colorado, so I'm going to talk if you're going westbound out of Denver. Some really beautiful scenery on this day, and this day you're actually in the American Rockies, so steep canyons. You're following the Colorado River for 60% of this journey as well, and lots of great wildlife options again. So you might see mountain lions, coyotes, bears as well. So really kind of completely different. Day two is when the scenery is going to change drastically. So you'll have spent your night in Glenwood Springs, and then this is when you're going to be in true wild, wild west territory. So you can see here we've got the LaSalle Mountains, these big red kind of alien landscapes, which I really can't think of anywhere in Europe that even kind of comes close to this. So you're really going to be moving out of that mountain scenery into this kind of red wild territory. Silverleaf is our option on board this route. There is actually a tunnel called Moffat Tunnel, which has a height restriction, so we're not able to take our Goldleaf carriages down onto this route. But we are going to have an option which we are calling Silverleaf Plus, where you will have the a kind of lounge car, which is going to be set up like an American bar. So it's going to be a really nice social atmosphere where you can go and have a cocktail and mingle with other guests as well. There we go. And just a little bit of information about the destinations that we'll be traveling to. So it's Moab, Glenwood Springs and Denver. Denver is known as the Mile High City. It's the capital of Colorado, and you can actually see the American Rockies in the background there. It's quite a cosmopolitan town. It is known as the Napa Valley of craft beer. So if any of you are into beer, Colorado is the place, sorry, Denver is the place to go. And you can actually do a brewery mile tour, which I cannot wait to do. Probably a good place to spend maybe a night or two. There's lots of great museums and shopping, and it's a very walkable, compact downtown area. And then Glenwood Springs is our equivalent of Kamloops, essentially in the States. This is a really lovely little resort town, and Glenwood Springs is actually famous for the largest hot springs pool in the world. It is larger than a football pitch, and it's right in the center of Glenwood Springs. So once you've got off the train for the day, it's actually open till 9 or 10 p.m. at night. So you can go and have a lovely relaxing evening in a hot springs pool, which I just think sounds fabulous. And then Moab is a very kind of creative, arty little town. And as I mentioned earlier, it is the gateway to the national parks in Utah. So you've got Arches Park and Canyonlands, which are very, very close to Moab. And then you've got the other three, Bryce and Zion and Capitol Reef, a little bit further away towards Vegas. But Moab's a great place. It's got great restaurants, great shopping, great art galleries for exploring all these incredible national parks in the USA. This is just an idea of something that you could do as a package. This is an escorted tour option where you'd have a couple of nights in Moab to explore Canyonlands and Dead Horse Point. You'd also get a boat trip as well on Lake Powell. You'd have a night in Bryce Canyon. You'd get to see Monument Valley, which is, if any of you have seen Forrest Gump, there is a scene where he's running and he's got a beard and he's got all these crowds behind him. And then at one point he just stops and says, "I'm not running anymore." That's Monument Valley. So you would get to see that on this excursion as well. And then finally you finish up in Vegas. Lots of different options here as well. You could do a self-drive and really take your time in the national parks, or you could just leave Moab straight away and head down towards Vegas, which is about a 6-hour drive in total. Just to kind of wrap things up, just wanted to mention that health and safety is obviously taken very, very seriously on board. In normal times, we wouldn't be cutting any corners, and to be perfectly honest, we're going to be really, really amping up our game going forward. I am going to get through this whole presentation without mentioning the C word, but just to bring that to your attention. And then finally, this is just a little bit of a showing off screen. This is lots and lots of awards that Rocky Mountaineer has been very lucky enough to win in the past. And I didn't think we could finish off without a photo of a bear waving. So yeah, that's everything Rocky Mountaineer in half an hour. So thank you so much for listening. I hope that has transported you from your sofas to the west. And any questions, please feel free to ask away.
That was brilliant, Sarah. Thank you very much. Loving the bear there, and crikey, it's quite the bucket list.
Oh. I think I've accidentally muted you.
Oh, there we go.
Sorry, I didn't mean to mute you.
Did you hear any of that? No. Anyway, thank you very much. And yeah, proper bucket list itineraries there, and two such different regions as well, with Canada and America, which is fantastic. Mount Robson obviously got me thinking, can I climb that? And I thought, right, no, I need to concentrate on on the rest of it and the wildlife, and yeah, everything. The food, fantastic, really loved it. So yeah, I think there was one question that was popped in the chat. Just wondered what kind of speed the train was traveling at to see all of the crazy wildlife.
Great question. We are not a Japanese bullet train. We travel at a very leisurely pace. Our average speed is actually around 30 miles an hour. So we call that Kodak pace. So you should be able to get a good photograph at that speed. It's a very leisurely, indulgent, relaxing experience.
That's brilliant. That's good. And if anyone else has any questions, then feel free to either pop it in the chat, or if you want to unmute yourself and ask. But I know that sometimes you're a very quiet bunch. That's okay. Okay, well, thank you very much, Sarah. Anyway, that was fantastic, really good, and I'll look forward to yeah, sending out some of your videos and popping them on social media so that other people can see them all as well. Okay. So yeah, then I guess I need to also just introduce a little bit for next week's, if hopefully everyone will be able to join. So next week it's we're looking at Intrepid Travel, and although they do group trips at Well and TaylorMade, but all over the world, next week we're actually looking at their UK breaks, so they're active group breaks, and it will be of varying degrees of activity levels, so definitely one for everyone, I think. So I'm really excited to see that and see where they're going to tempt us for this summer and beyond. That would be brilliant. But once again, if anyone has any destinations or trip styles that you want me to look into, or to, you know, be presenting so that you can find out more, then just drop me an email, and any feedback that you have would be gratefully received. And we pretty much managed to get through without too many technical glitch, well, without any really, so well done, Sarah.
It's never happened before, so it must be this lovely bunch and their good vibes, that must be it.